I have not been following closely the Diddy trial, but I do think it is important to mention that it appears like yet another rich, powerful predator has been saved by our very imperfect justice system and a jury that often likes to side with powerful, famous celebrities over victims. And I'll add, especially when those victims are Black women. Let's call it what it is. You all saw the R. Kelly documentary. Calm down. Diddy has been found guilty of 2 charges, but basically evaded these mass sex trafficking charges and racketeering charges. He was found guilty of transporting to engage in prostitution, which now I'm no expert in what the definition of sex trafficking is, but isn't it when you transport people to engage in prostitution? Like recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, obtaining, patronizing, or soliciting a person for the purpose of commercial sex, in which a commercial sex act is induced by forced fraud or coercion. So, I don't know, maybe, you know, tomato. It feels very similar. But anyway, I found this, I know it's a Variety article, but I thought it was a good summation of everything that's been going on. He's being found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, but he's dodged the 3 most serious charges, 2 counts of sex trafficking, 1 count of racketeering. He could face a maximum of 10 years each for the 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. He won't. I'll just, spoiler alert, he won't. He could still spend decades behind bars. But the mood among the defense team was celebratory. Aside from total acquittal, this was the best outcome for him. After the jury announced the split verdict, Combs pumped his fist and mouthed, "Thank you" at the jurors. That's so gross. That just grosses me out. He appeared relieved and overjoyed, shaking his attorney's hands, facing his family, and starting a round of applause. As the jury read out the not guilty verdict, gasps were heard in the courtroom. Members of Combs' family and legal team began to cry. An hour later, as Combs' families exited the courthouse and piled into a Sprinter van, his sons and daughters broke into half smiles as the crowd hung cameras around their heads and chanted, "Freedom, freedom." Okay, calm down. It's not Mandela. The defense is currently arguing for Combs to be released before his sentencing date, proposing $1 million in bond. Federal prosecutors say Combs' lawyers are underplaying the seriousness of the conviction, and there's a real risk to him letting him walk free. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to let him post bail, let him get out of jail, and post bail and turn over his passports. So they're like, he's not a flight risk. He's not going anywhere. Okay, except for Prospera in Honduras, run by a tech billionaire, where there are no laws against sex trafficking and racketeering. The jury delivered the verdict after an 8-week trial that featured 34 witnesses testifying against the hip-hop mogul and Bad Boy Records founder. He was accused of coercing multiple women into having freak-offs, day-long drug-fueled sex marathons with male escorts that he flew across state lines. That seems like trafficking? The defense argued that Combs paid these men for their time and that the sexual encounters naturally came about between 3 consenting adults. The prosecution said the notion that the male escorts were not paid for sex does not even pass the laugh test. And when Combs handed them wads of cash at the end of the freak-offs, it wasn't for their scintillating conversation. Combs' acquittal on sex trafficking and racketeering charges a major victory. During an intense 4-day testimony, his ex-girlfriend of 11 years, Cassandra Cassie Ventura, alleged Combs routinely assaulted and psychologically abused her. Photos of her injuries and videos of the freak-offs from across their relationship were shown to the jury. Ventura sued Combs in November 2023, kicking off a wave of litigation and later a federal investigation. Combs paid her $20 million in a settlement the next day. Jane, an anonymous witness who dated Combs from 2021 to 2024, accused Combs of forcing her to take drugs, having freak-offs, using the fact that he paid her rent as leverage in what prosecutors called the most clear-cut example of sex trafficking in this case. So again, he puts her up in a room, in an apartment, forced her to take drugs, and paid her rent in exchange for her participating in these like mass drug-fueled sex parties. Combs allegedly said to Jane, mocking the federal investigation, "Is it coercion?" Combs allegedly said to Jane, mocking the federal investigation looming over him. Mia, another pseudonymous witness, worked for Combs as a personal assistant and then executive. She said during her employment, he physically assaulted her and raped her. Other witnesses testified to Combs' alleged criminal activity spanning 20 years. I mean, here's the unspoken thing. We know that Cassie testified that he raped her in 2018. Now you have his personal assistant testifying that he raped her, but I guess between 2021 and 2024. That's 2 counts of rape. So I'm assuming those charges are going to be brought separately. This will not be the end of it. But like, that was not necessarily before the jury. Maybe just color to add to the trafficking, charges and the transportation to engage in prostitution. Look, I don't know. I'm not a legal expert on this, but I'm assuming this is not going to be the end of it. It's just very, very, very disturbing. A former stylist spoke of witnessing Combs' violence toward Ventura. A fashion designer claimed Combs held her over a railing of a 17-story balcony. A hotel security guard said Combs bribed him with $100,000 in cash to erase the surveillance footage that depicted his 2016 assault on Ventura. That's the footage that we've all seen. The rapper Kid Cudi, who previously briefly dated Ventura in 2011, accused Combs of breaking into his house and on a separate occasion, orchestrating an arson on his car. So are there going to be charges for that? Prosecutors painted Combs as the leader of an enterprise whose inner circle of security guards and staffers helped him commit crimes, including sex trafficking, drug distribution, arson, and bribery, and cover them up. The defense argued that Combs was simply part of a swinger's lifestyle, and that his drug-fueled sex parties, known as freak-offs, were entirely consensual. Obviously, much of this has to do with the fact that he was in these deeply coercive and abusive relationships that he held all the power in, that when Cassie wanted to not participate in the drug-fueled sex parties, which, by the way, were done at the behest of her boyfriend. This is her boyfriend, right? That he would threaten her, threaten to not release the music that he had recorded for her, threatened to release the videos of her engaged in these acts because they were filmed. Basically, I will destroy your life. I will ruin your life. And as people who've been in abusive relationships know, the very thing that's destroying your life is that abusive relationship. And yet, because you still have love for that person, you want to do right by them. You want to do what they ask. You want to please them. That is the power dynamic of these relationships. So, look, I don't know. Is this Epstein level trafficking? I don't think so. I don't think that this is Epstein level at all. But is there assault and for sure trafficking? Yeah. I don't know about RICO charges again, but because he wasn't necessarily hiring Cassie out or he wasn't pimping her out. This was all ostensibly to fill his little, Napoleon complex, fetish that he could hold people against their will. So I'm not an expert on whether or not sex trafficking or specifically these racketeering charges were the right charges to bring. I think it's a fascinating legal question, but nevertheless, the dude is a criminal. Dude is a violent and dangerous threat. Okay, as we learned also from other powerful people who were allowed to get off on these similar charges, like R. Kelly, who straight up did run a ring at his home of young girls. Diddy will do it again. Diddy will absolutely victimize people again. But of course, he's also probably going to seek a pardon. So if he does serve, up to 10 years, which we all know it'll be 2 years plus community service, he's going to be looking to Donald Trump for a pardon. The two have been long photographed together, longtime friends, similar to the Epstein stuff. They were corny when it was cool to be corny. That is what he will be searching for. I mean, I think there is something more to be said about, even though he was acquitted of the most serious charges, the fact that Cassie could come out and testify against this person who held her in an 11-year-long abusive relationship to which she was absolutely the victim of, and that openly we can have an honest discussion about what being victimized by a powerful person does to your psyche, does to your emotional state. She multiple times talked about not wanting to live anymore. That, I think, is a win. But the fact of the matter is that this trial is playing out in a backdrop of a massive backlash to the Me Too movement, of a massive backlash to, oh my God, women don't want to be aggressed upon. Oh, women, once you enter into a relationship, all bets are off. You're the property of this person. Oh, it's abusive, lol. You agreed to do it. What do you mean? Like, what even is consent? You're my girlfriend. There is no such thing as that. You want to please me. You even said it. Like that suddenly we have there was a window that was open where we were honestly talking about bringing predators to justice. And now that window has closed. And in fact, we brought a man who was convicted of sexual abuse, Donald Trump, brought him back into the White House. This dude, I'm sorry, y'all, whatever you want to call it, this dude Jean Carroll in a fucking dressing room, okay? He straight up her in broad daylight in a Bergdorf fucking Goodman, y'all. That's what happened. Then he defamed her, and I don't even think he's paid her a cent since, even though he was ordered to pay however many millions of dollars and kept on having to pay it. I mean, it's exorbitant. What is it, like 80 million at this point? It's a lot. He's not paid it. He's not paid. There's not been justice in that case. This is the world we live in. But at the same time, if Cassie's testimony, if this other, Jane Doe's testimony can give victims a way to come forward to document stuff, that's important. That's good. But this is a dangerous man. And honestly, people are making jokes about countdown to when Diddy's going to visit the White House. Oh, yeah. Countdown to when he's going to visit the White House. Countdown to when he's going to go on Andrew Tate's podcast. Countdown to when he's going to go on Patrick Bet-David. Countdown to when he's going to go on Joe Rogan. Countdown to when he's going to come out with his own Netflix comedy special. Like, countdown to when this is all funny and everyone's just like, it's all hilarious. Right? Except for he's a fucking racist. He's a psycho arsonist who dangled an assistant out of a 17th floor window. Cool.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.